Welcome to They Think It's All Sober, the wonderful Mr. Dean McCullough.
Why are you doing like a presented voice?
Because I am. That's what I have to do.
He didn't
to get into the zone.
Like that
you know,
ago, guys.
have to get into the zone.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Your house is beautiful, by the way.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I love that you both live here, and
We
this
do.
is your house.
How many smells of cheese?
Can we talk about the cheese?
We can talk about the
Right, it
cheese.
fucking stinks in this room.
Yeah.
Right, and producer G, who I've just met, I walked in and I was like, yeah, G, it does stink of cheese in here. Either that or you've farted and you're pretending that there was cheese in this room before we were in it. Which is clever.
There was
Yes.
a cheese podcast.
It was a cheese, or someone's just hidden a load of camembert about 3 months ago.
Someone really
under the
hates
sofa
us.
Or something.
Someone's like, fuck those sober guys. I'm going to ruin their podcast by just laying cheese
Yeah.
everywhere.
It fucking stinks of
We'll leave a load
cheese.
of smother a load of boursin all over the walls. So
They say that when you break up with somebody, that's what you should do. You should hide cheese behind their radiators.
that's interesting.
Even if it's amicable.
Yeah.
I think we should go our separate ways. Fuck you. Port Salut. Everywhere in the gaff.
Spice things up. Put some Baby Bell behind the headboard.
Yeah, unwrapped, of course.
Unwrapped. How the fuck have we started talking about cheese?
We do. That's how things go.
Well, anyway, we are here. So, podcast, sobriety. The usual format we do is kind of go back to first memories of alcohol. We like to give the listeners kind of a bit of a picture about maybe your relationship with alcohol growing up, whether it had a big presence or not.
Yeah.
We normally kick this off by Jamie making this wonderful time machine noise.
Good. 'Cause I thought you were going to dive into that question without me getting to do the noise.
No.
So please
Go on.
lay me up.
Time machine, please.
Oh, you?
There you go. You're now back.
In
And
Belfast.
this is now young Dean.
No expense spared on this podcast, guys.
Absolutely none. Cheese and time machines.
Fucking hell.
Here we are.
So I'm in Belfast, am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That was a quick train.
There you go.
I'm in Belfast. I am probably around about 8 or 9. There was always parties in my house. There was always family gatherings. There was always people over at the weekend. Mum and Dad had a really high cabinet with a CD player in it it started off, it had one CD player in it, and then as the years went on and the fancier we got 2.
Nice.
So you could flip from one to another.
Nice.
I was like, whoa.
What tunes were going on at these
We're in the
parties?
future. UB40, Macy
Nice.
Gray,
Yeah.
David Gray, the Rolling Stones, Elton John, all the greats really. I
Yeah.
grew up around music and it was always on in our house. The radio was always on in our house. So I guess there was always booze around, but I think in a really healthy way. You know, I don't ever really remember thinking, oh my God, you know, mum and dad are drinking too much or anything like that. But what I do know is that I'm from a big family. My mum is one of 9, and alcoholism runs in our family. So my granny and granddad both had quite a bad drink problem from what I've been told.
Right.
And they both passed away. I didn't really have a relationship with them. I never ever met my granddad. He died before I was born.
Right.
And my granny, she was around for a bit and then she passed away of emphysema. But I think it is a cliche, but I think Irish families, there is always booze around, you know, and they're always big families, aren't they? Normally Irish families, we breed like fucking rabbits. So there's just cousins everywhere, aunts and uncles everywhere. And I think for a few members of my family, they took it a little bit too far.
Right.
And even when I was a kid, I remember my mum having an argument with one of her sisters because she came to mind us. And she was an alcoholic. She still is an alcoholic, you know, but she's been in recovery for a long time now. But she came to mind us and she'd brought... Do you remember when a certain cola brand brought out a bottle that was... Some of them were gold and some of them were silver?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember those?
I do.
She brought a silver one of those to our house, filled with her own drink.
Wow.
And it was full of vodka. And I remember probably being about 6 and going into the kitchen and seeing her bottle of what I thought was cola. And taking a drink out of it, but it wasn't. It was straight vodka.
Shit.
Yeah. She got really, really drunk. I had to call my mum on the landline. She was over at my other granny and granddad's house and she had to come home to help us because she got so drunk that she couldn't look after us.
Wow.
And you were 6?
I was about 6 or 7, I think. Yeah. Obviously, family arguments,
Yeah.
fights whenever booze is involved. Feeling like the day after there had been parties and stuff, and just knowing that things weren't great.
So like
you know,
an energy.
like a vibe. You know, when you're that
Interesting.
young, you can tell. You wake up and you know that your mum and dad have had a few people around the night before, or whatever, and it's not fun. It's not fun. And I would say this to my mum now. Like, me and my mum are very, 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 very close.
Yeah.
And I don't speak to my dad anymore, but their relationship, I think, definitely had a bit of an impact on us. But I think, to give them their dues, I think they did protect us from certain situations.
Yeah.
You know, we always had a lot of fun. We went on holiday a lot. We went on holiday once a year. Mallorca, Menorca, Turkey, all of that,
Nice.
you know, and there was always alcohol around, and I never felt unsafe when I was with my mum and dad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
They were very good in that way. But I think when there was more people or other family members and stuff like that, I think it makes you just feel a little bit unsafe. And I remember I sat down with my mum and dad, and I remember probably being about 10 at this stage and saying to my mum and dad, you know, I've made a decision. I will not drink alcohol when I'm older. I will just have a glass of wine on a Friday or a Saturday night, but never both.
At
And Mum,
10?
At 10.
Wow,
And Mum, we went,
Interesting.
Yeah.
okay, son, okay. And because my cousins were a bit older than me, you know, I used to learn how to smoke from them. They were good at, like, there were big parties, there'd be loads of bottles of beers around, bottles of Bud, always bottles of Bud, and being able to, like, sneak out into the garden and, like, try it and stuff. And we went away and we met different families, and their kids were older. I remember, like, running around to this, like, shop in Turkey and spending, like, what would have been the equivalent of about £1 on 10 cigarettes and smoking them and hating it, but just doing it, you know,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you're
yeah.
a kid
Yeah.
and wanting to try drinks and stuff like that. And I think that's where my mum particularly was really good at, like, managing me within this, because she knew that we were around alcohol, we were a sociable family, and I was older for my years, thought I knew everything, could sit in a room and talk to adults. So when we had family parties, I'd be in the middle of it all, talking to people and asking them questions and stuff, because that's just how I was. So whenever I was a certain age, my mum used to allow me to have a drink.
Right.
So when I was probably about, I would say 13, I think about 13, my mum and dad used to give me a £5 on a Friday, and they would allow me to buy 2 bottles of WKD, one red, one blue.
Nice.
You're nodding because you get it, right? It
Yeah.
was 2 for a £5. Do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
remember? And so if we were having barbecues or family parties, because I could see that everyone else was getting their, we called them carryouts in Belfast. Did you
Yeah,
call,
yeah,
what did
yeah.
you call them here?
Oh God.
Carryout,
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
like a carryout.
Just an offie, I guess.
Yeah.
So you'd be getting your carryout at the weekend, and I would get a £5, and I would be allowed to go and buy a bottle of blue WKD and a bottle of red WKD.
Who was behind the till selling a 13-year-old child these things? That's the question I've got.
I think I know it's bad that, but I never went in and bought it. Obviously. It was just like,
I
Mummy
thought
was-
you were there like, please, sir.
Oh no, that came later, but not too much later actually. But I used to go and get my booze, because my cousins and stuff, they were getting their drinks and their ciders and stuff like that. So it was just like part of it. We were going to my auntie's house, we were having a barbecue, and I was allowed to have these drinks. And I think my mum was trying to teach me that if you do this on my terms, whilst I can see it with the money that I'm giving you, it's fine. If you go behind my back and you do this without me knowing about it, it's not fine. And I learned that very, very quickly. But from drinking these bottles of blue WKD and red WKD every now and again, I realised that I actually didn't really like it. I was not a fan of being drunk. I liked the whole, like, event of sitting around and, like, the taste of it, because it was just basically sugar. But I didn't like looking at people who were drunk.
Yeah.
I didn't like my mum and dad getting drunk. My dad his face used to change right up until we stopped speaking. His face used to change. And my brother, his face changes when he drinks, and I fucking hate it. Previous partners, their faces change. Do you know what I mean?
I know
It's like,
exactly
you
what
could
you
be
mean.
standing with your mate. Everyone will be able to relate to this. You'd be standing with your mate 1 minute on a night out, in a bar, in a kitchen, wherever the hell you are. They'll look away, a minute will pass, and they'll turn around and their face has changed. And I believe that's when you've been taken over. You know, like it's almost like you've been possessed.
100%.
So I didn't like that when I was a kid.
That's interesting.
I didn't like it.
So from what I'm kind of taking from this as well is that whilst your relationship, I suppose, immediate relationship when you were younger and with perhaps your parents was relatively healthy, from quite an early age, you recognise that alcohol came with the negative connotations, even from the age of 6, ringing, you know, your mum saying your aunt was drunk, which is actually a very early age to have that kind of perception that perhaps alcohol wasn't necessarily a great thing. And then I think a lot of us started with sweet drinks for alcohol. You know, I think it's the way.
Cider, baby.
That's like, no one actually really. I remember taking my first taste of beer and it tasted like dog shit.
Oh my God, beer was awful when you were a kid,
horrible.
wasn't it?
So alcohol pops were like the gateway in, because it's like, hey, this is sugar. And then you obviously had the effects of the alcohol, which for a lot of people are like the first sort of like calming. It's something different that you feel, isn't it? So, but that was like the way in.
It was.
So I guess early teens, you had that kind of controlled drinking. Your mum was saying, you know, have 2 drinks, I can see it all. How did alcohol kind of shape its way through your teens then, as you were kind of going to your later teens? Did that kind of increase? Was there more parties? You know?
It was like, for me, even at such a young age, for me, it was never about the drinking. So like a lot of my friends were going to the park and they were buying like wee slabs of Goldschlager. Do you remember Goldschlager?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah, what was that about?
That was like the bougie kids drink, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was like, hi, I'm just going to give you this drink, which is going to have foil in it, which is, that, you know, the rumour was it cut your throat.
What?
So the alcohol went in
was
quicker,
seeping
right?
quicker.
I believed that only till about a couple of months ago when someone said that was bullshit. And I went,
I still believe it.
Until now, genuinely. I think I've just realised that's a lie.
yeah, it doesn't, right, we're saying it right now.
What an
It doesn't cut
amazing
your
marketing ploy, by the way.
throat. Fucking
Sponsor
hell.
us.
Fuck you, Goldschlager.
0% Goldschlager. Get that mineral water straight in you. Just in water with foil. That's a
Take the
business
razor
plan.
blades to my throat.
That is good.
But my friends were doing that and they were buying bottles of Frosty Jack and they were going to the park and whatever. And again, I was still there with my Alco Pops because I didn't like the taste of vodka. I'd been burned literally when I was 6 by taking a swig of it from a bottle. And I didn't like it. So for me, boozing and the whole thought around like young teen drinking was always just social. It was always social because my friends were a lot older than me. Whenever I wasn't at school, I was going to like drama school, theatre school in Belfast. So a lot of my friends were older than me and they kind of took me under their wing because they saw me as older. So that's good because you get to like, you know, have different types of friends and whatever. But it also means that you are in those circle of friends where people have already had their experience with alcohol. They've already got their favorite drinks. They already know what the limits and stuff are. And I'm just like, oh, teach me. And I'm there drinking like apple
sours,
cider.
was it?
Oh my God, I used to love apple sours, weirdly. Again, because it was just full of sugar.
I was an apple cider boy. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
apple cider.
Peach cider, I think not peach, pear.
Pear cider.
Yeah.
Yeah. Many a bad morning after drinking too much pear cider.
That was. I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast where I used to drink this thing called Broad Oak, and it was like 2 liters of pear cider, and me and my friends named it a Broad Over because the hangovers were so bad, specifically on this pear cider. So whatever was in it was just like, fuck you.
Do you know what I think it is
dead.
now that I don't drink? I think it's predominantly a sugar crash.
Yeah.
So the sugar crash of these drinks mixed with the dehydration, the anxiety, the fear, you just end up in a dark place. But I suppose it was all about social for me when it came to drinking in my teens. And I was never the person that was like, let's get fucked up. Let's get pissed. Like, I want to go and get pissed. It was never that. It was just like, and I wasn't really following the crowd. I just sort of knew that I didn't like being out of control. I didn't like that feeling in my face where you feel like your face is dropping and you're having a stroke. I didn't like that. I didn't like the feeling of burning up. I didn't like the feeling it gave me in my stomach, which is interesting because I'll talk about that in a bit, how the signs were there from the beginning with me.
Right.
But I didn't like all that feeling that it gave me. And but at the time you don't think about it because you don't think when you're 13 or 14 and you're drinking, you don't think, oh, it's fine because I'm going to give up soon. You've just started.
Yeah, of course.
You just know that this is okay because everybody around me is doing it, you know. It's Belfast, it's the early 90s, you know what I mean? It's like, let's just, you know, thing. Just do it. But it all sort of changed for me whenever I was going out. So I was going out partying probably when I was about 15. I had my cousin's ID. I had loads of friends who were older. I could get in places and I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed the getting ready. I loved a Saturday afternoon because we'd go to New Look My friend would steal us our clothes for that night.
Love it.
Again, not something I would recommend.
Yeah, don't do that. We do not endorse theft.
She would steal us our clothes because we'd no money. We were kids, and then we'd go round to her house, and my friends would get a bottle of Boost, which is like the cheap Belfast version of Red Bull, and she'd pour like half a pint glass of vodka and then just top it up with a splash of Boost.
I remember Boost, the grey bottle. Like,
yeah, with the blue.
Heaving.
It was absolutely
and we'd drink that, and she'd get her Urban Decay palette out, and I would do her makeup with my fingers because we didn't think the brushes were a thing, and I was the king of sun shimmer, so I'd be able to stand them and sun shimmer them, and the music would be on, Usher, Neo, songs I fucking hate, but because I was the straight one in amongst all these girls doing their makeup, drinking vodka Red Bulls and doing their tan.
No science. No science.
Guys, what the fuck? But we would get dressed and then we'd go out. See, as soon as we got to that club, I was over it. I was like, oh, fucking hell, another hip hop night.
Almost like the boring bit of the night.
Yeah, this is so boring. If I hear Usher, one more time, like I'm done with it.
I'm out.
I'm literally out.
Yeah.
So I get trailed around these clubs and whatever, and I really, really didn't enjoy it. But I loved the bit after, because we go back and stay at my friend's house, we get a takeaway, we'd like laugh about the night, and that was the fun bit for me. So I was never really the let's get on the dance floor and get really fucking pissed person. Yeah. Let's go and like talk to everyone and like let's go and kick off and start fights and stuff. That just was never ever me. I just genuinely wanted to dance.
Yeah.
But unfortunately I couldn't dance to the R&B and hip hop nights that I was being dragged to on a Thursday night in Belfast. So my first gay bar experience was genuinely like, if you can imagine what getting to heaven actually looks like. I'm actually getting emotional thinking about it, but it was unbelievable.
Amazing.
It was a Sunday. I was wearing this salmon pink knockoff Ralph Lauren t-shirt that I stole from my cousin because it was pink and he thought it was too gay. I was like, I'll have that. And I went to this drag show in Belfast, and I drank Magners Irish cider.
Yeah.
Which is made with English apples, which I heard recently. And Bulmers is made with Irish apples. Yeah.
Okay.
So much controversy today, guys. but I was drinking this, and I was around my people. There was tunes on, Donna Summer, there was Gloria Gaynor, there was Steps, S Club 7, all being played, and I was like, okay, this is it. Like, I'm home. And interestingly, I could have like 3 ciders, and that was me, you know, because at this stage I was like looking around at the guys, and I was like, there was drag queens on, and I felt more at peace, you know. And then we'd go upstairs and we'd go into the club and we would just dance, and that's whenever I started taking poppers and you know, drinking vodka Red Bulls in the club, and it was all quite fun and all very measured, and it was just good. I was just having a good time because the social aspect and the mentality that I had, that I was in my place with my people. There were no creepy men trying to hit on my girlfriends. It was just me and the gays and the drag queens, and we were having a nice time. And I'm only 15 at this stage.
I was about to say, how old were you at
15,
this point? And were you out at that point?
Not really, no.
Right, okay.
I wasn't saying I was out. I wasn't ready to share anything with anybody, but I was definitely doing bits and bobs around the side. I was on like online on MSN, like talking to guys and stuff like that, doing all sorts on webcams.
All been there, man.
We've all been there. So that's kind of what was happening. So as you can probably tell, booze was not really the driving force for any of this activity at all.
It sounds like almost like you finding out who you were was the most important thing in that
100%.
phase.
And I knew how uncomfortable I was in those clubs, but I knew how comfortable I was in this club. And it wasn't really about the booze, you know. And again, like, my mum would allow me to go out because she knew that I guess we'd done the work, and she'd helped me learn what good alcohol consumption was like. I never finished both of those bottles of double KD, let's be honest. I had like a glass and a half, and and they got hidden, do you know what I mean? It was just like you know. So by this stage, my mummy was like, right, yes, go into town, be with your friends. I was around people that were older that she knew. It was fine, and I always went and I always came back. I never ever let her down. I never ever did anything I shouldn't have done. You know, I never got into trouble, never brought problems to the door. So it was all quite healthy. Even though I was 15 and sneaking into gay bars in Belfast, do you know what I mean? It wasn't until, I guess, whenever I moved to London whenever I was, I just turned 16 in the July, and I moved to London in
Wow.
September
I was going
for
to
drama
ask,
school.
was that your journey in? So
Yeah.
into London, into drama school, out of Belfast,
Out of Belfast.
into the fire of London
Big,
town.
dark, rainy Belfast, the bright lights of London, where poppers were going to be the least of my worries.
You're like, poppers? No worries.
What the fuck is that?
So quite young to kind of move cities and
Yeah.
go into
Very young.
something.
Very young.
But at that point in time, your sort of relationship with alcohol would, by the sounds of it, was relatively controlled and healthy, and you were having fun.
I'd had my Malibu summer, where I drank Malibu for a whole summer, and that was it. I didn't touch Malibu after that. Do you have those drinks where you caned a certain drink, whether you had like a cider summer or like a Malibu summer or like a tequila summer?
I had a red wine winter when I met an ex-partner, and we just drank red literally for like 2-3 months, just red wine. Now I cannot. I mean, I won't now. I'm sober, but
Were your lips black?
it was just hell. I remember one night drinking 2 bottles of red wine to myself and just thinking like, this is dreadful.
Yeah.
That's crazy. We had another guest on actually who only drank Malibu.
Yeah, his entire drinking life was exclusively Malibu.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he not with us anymore?
No,
He is. He's a yogi.
He's just a nine man. He's like
What?
Yeah, the
it's crazy.
Malibu man.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No, I had my summer before I moved to London. I was just about to turn 16. Asda started doing a really cheap version of Malibu. It was like £4.60 or something, and we would get that and a bottle of like Coke, like knockoff Coke and pineapple, and we just like mix between the two. And the sickness that I had after that,
Yeah.
I can still recall how hellish it was. So I'd done all of that. I'd had all of those summers of trying different drinks and stuff. None of them agreed with me, really. There's never really been one drink in my whole 31 years that I've gone, oh yeah, this is my drink. This agrees with me. I like this drink and I'm going to drink it forever, you know?
Sure.
It was always peaks and troughs with drinks. So whenever I got to London and I was at drama school with a whole lot of other boys that looked like me, were sort of the same age as me, I was like, okay, this is great. You know, I don't need to, I guess, explore what it's like to try all these different drinks. I know that I can stick to this and I can do that. And there was no mention of drugs at all my whole 3 years. It was like, what the hell's MCAT? I remember these guys coming to party with us one weekend, and he was like, do you want some MCAT? And I was like, absolutely not. Like, I turned my nose up at it as if it was the worst thing in the whole entire world.
Speaking of the smell of cheese, the smell of MCAT
Don't
is the most.
stop,
I can like be in a
stop.
supermarket now, and like something will have that scent, and it sends me back to.
It's
a
coconut
fucking-
cake, cat piss. It's sort of like
It's the
that
worst,
era.
mate.
Yeah.
That drug. God, me and my
Fucking
friends used to
bonkers.
order it online because it was plant fertilizer. How
Well,
it was
that's what they
disguised as, and
called
it would
it.
come through
Yeah.
the
Cactus
door.
feed.
And it was like a £10 a bag. I
£10.
don't want to talk about it. It was bad.
It was £10 a bag because
Yeah.
me and my friend, whenever it turned to £20 a bag, me and my friend used to put in a tenner each, and we'd buy a bag of it
Extortionate.
on like a Thursday, and it would last us till the Sunday.
Oh yeah, it was the craziest drug.
Fucking
of all time.
phenomenal, so great and so
The worst
cheap,
come downs ever.
but really bad.
Oh, like I've never been in a place. One of my friends actually, we had a big weekend on it, and I came into my kitchen on the Sunday, and he was just literally sat in the corner staring at the wall. And I was like, "Bro, you're right." He's like, "I don't feel right," and he genuinely had to go on antidepressants for like 3 months after
Yeah.
it because the come down was
Yeah.
so bad. He was like, his thoughts went into a really bad place. I don't know what the fuck they put. in
Yeah,
it.
leave the cactus feed for the plants.
Yeah, don't go near it. But I remember someone saying that to me when they came to a party with us at drama school, and we were like, "What the fuck?" Because it wasn't really part of our culture. It wasn't like I moved to London and just fell into cocaine. Like it was a gradual process.
Right.
But I guess whenever I was graduating, I moved into London because I was living in Surrey in Epsom, but
Right.
we'd go and party at Heaven like every Friday night
Right.
and stuff. But again, with no money, so we couldn't really afford anything beyond like a bottle of Lambrini. Do you know what I mean? We'd sneak into most clubs, or we'd knew somebody who knew somebody. So everything was done on the cheap, which were the best years of my life when I look back on it. Like it really was. But whenever I moved into London, and I was sort of like going to a couple of friends of mine that already worked in the West End, were taking me to these like press nights, and I wanted to be famous. I was like, oh, I love this life, events and free bars and going to like places where we knew there was photographers and all that shit. Like when I think about it now, I just think, oh my God, I probably spent about 4 years just acting completely out of my ego.
Wow.
Completely out. Every single decision was like, I need to be served here. I need to be served here. I need to be served here. Which fine, like
Yeah.
fine. Most people always speak out of their ego. And I'm sure today at some point I've acted out of my ego. Fine, there's nothing wrong with it. But I didn't know who my ego was. I hadn't quite worked him out yet. I thought the ego was me.
Yeah.
I thought that person that had got to drama school on a scholarship, 75 grand, was worth it. Like, you know, I could go and work in the West End and I was like destined for all these great things because that's me, and why wouldn't it happen? Do you know what I mean? It was like there was no other way, which is fantastic when you're 10 and you're like, because I used to tell everybody I was going to move to London. Never been to London. No one in my family had ever been to London. My mum went and lived in London for a while, but she didn't really tell me much about it. It wasn't like I had any relationship to it whatsoever. Yeah. I was 10 and I was going to go to London and I was going to go to drama school.
Wow.
And it happened, right? And that's great. But when I got to London, I'd become this sort of character within myself. I was going to
ask about that, like, and because some of our guests, it sounds like you were always quite a confident kid. So some of our guests will talk to, and I know for me being a shy kid, the alcohol helped bring out a character, and I did the same thing. You create a character, and unfortunately the character, like in a movie, takes you over and then you're stuck.
The caricature of yourself.
Yeah. But did the booze help you create the character? Or it sounds very much like it was more of a career drive or like an ambition that created that version of Dean. Or was there any blurred lines with the alcohol?
I think the blurred lines came from the drugs rather than the alcohol. Right. So alcohol didn't make me necessarily feel more. So I just needed to be more all the time. I was not enough at all. So it was like, if I drink, that'll take the edge off, but I didn't realize it was taking the edge off at the time.
Sure.
It was taking the edge off the anxiety around going out, being seen, the anticipation of a night out, which now I've realized is just excitement.
Yeah.
To be around people, like it's fine to feel like that. But that was too much for my brain to compute. So like a glass of wine whilst I was getting ready, or like I guess a vodka and lemonade it was doing something, but I didn't quite know what it was. But the introduction that I had to like Coke was always around being at an event, being at a party, being at like an after party.
Yeah.
And there was always people around there. Like there were celebrities there were managers, there were agents. It was all very showbiz, right? So, and this is me probably like about 17, 18.
Just such a baby.
So fucking young.
Yeah.
But I was getting in that world, and I conditioned myself to believe that is the life that I've wanted. So I want to work in show business, and this is show business. Like this is rock and fucking roll.
Yeah.
You know, this is how it should be. Like I want to go to the Brits. Like I want to go to that award show. I want to, not because I believe that that's the be all and end all. It was just because I love show business.
Yeah.
I love it. I've always loved it. TV, radio, music videos, the fashion, the people, the energy. I love it all, and I still do now. But my little brain at that age thought that was just part of it. You go to these parties, you meet these people, and then the next day they ring you and they tell you that they want to put you on stage, and then you're a star, and that's it.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. What the fuck? Show business.
Yeah.
And it sounds so cliche, and even saying it now, like it gives me the ick, but that is what I thought it was, right? So I was taking Coke. A friend of mine always had Coke, and I was taking bits of it and whatever. And I guess I kind of liked it because I thought, this is Rockstar. It wasn't to get out of my head. It wasn't to become not present or anything like that. It was to make myself feel more. If I take this, I will feel more, and people will want to talk to me, and people will like me because I'm in that same headspace that they're in, right? And this is a boy who was bullied all through school,
right?
Always knew he was gay, did not fit in anywhere until I went to theatre school and mixed with other rainbow kids. I mean, I literally went to a theatre school called the Rainbow Factory, which is still running now, which I'm a patron of.
That's amazing.
And so I found my little tribe there, but I didn't ever feel like I was enough. You know, it was always, I don't know, I feel like people tolerated me rather than actually say, oh, hey, Dean, what do you think about this? Like, come and have a seat. Like, I never ever got that feeling. So through therapy and through the psychology that I have had, been through, psychotherapy that I've been through, I've realized that it was because I needed to make myself feel bigger. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. Was I appeasing the ego, or was the ego showing me that I needed to figure out who I was within that, you know? So that's the balancing act for me. And I still work on that today.
Yeah.
But the Coke was a real turning point, because I could never like just finish a bag. I was never that person. I could have like one line and that would be me.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's fine. What's wrong with that? I'm in Soho. I've sneaked into Soho House. I'm with my friends. One of them's got Coke, and I'm going to have a couple of drinks and a line of Coke, and that'll be it. Right? And then, because then what'll happen is we'll go to an after party and there'll be fun people there, and I'll meet somebody, and da-da-da-da-da. That was always the thing.
Next.
It was never just this moment. It was like, what's going to happen next and next and next. And I'm still like that today.
Yeah.
I have to really work on that. Like, we're in this bar now because we want to be in this bar, and that's it. I sit down in one bar and go, right, where to next?
I'm the exact
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to be present.
It's
isn't
so
it?
hard to be
Yeah,
present.
yeah.
So and we can't take that for granted. Like, that is an actual thing that goes on in your head. So is it any bloody wonder that then I turned into the, right, one bag's done, where's the next one coming from?
Yeah.
What this is done, whereas it was never like, okay, done.
Yeah.
Why? Because I didn't want to go home. I didn't.
When you're at home.
Yeah.
What
The
happens at home?
darkness comes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that at the time. I didn't realize that that's what I was petrified of. It was so deep in my psyche that I couldn't even see it. I didn't want to be out in the bright lights of the West End in London and going to all these amazing parties, which were fucking unbelievable, with all the best people, friends that I still speak to now. Why would I want to just like, I might miss something. I might miss something.
Yeah,
they might go to
the
another
FOMO,
after party.
you know?
Yeah,
What? I can't do that. Like, I'm like the showman. I'm the party boy, right? Everyone wants to be my friend now, right? So like, why would I want to take all this armor off, go home and sit in my bed and go, right, here we are again. This is actually reminding me of when I was 13.
Yeah.
Don't want that.
Yeah.
Right? So it was hell. It was hell, because the road was just getting...
Yeah.
The road was opening up and my life was opening up. But I guess I was going to have to face up to these things at some point, and going out and taking drugs and having sex with men whose names I never even knew. It was always going to come to a head, and I'm so fucking glad that it did.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I think cocaine, when you're there and I guess we're in very similar industries, being like music, entertainment, showbiz, we're all in it, right? And, you know, I think for someone who might be looking for more for their, whether that's the ego or insecurities, cocaine is the perfect drug for that. But it also makes it a very dangerous drug, because suddenly you don't know how to function without it on the night out when you've been conditioned to do it. And did you ever feel there was I don't know, because you talk about, especially with Coke, about alcohol.
Yeah, me and Coke were good pals.
Good pals,
We
but
were
you also
good
talk
pals.
about how the Coke came in after the drink, right? So you'd be like 2 or 3 beers before you were like,
Well, no,
I'm going to then...
I don't know, because I kind of spoke about it quite openly, because I got to the point with Coke where I would never pick up... Sorry, I would start thinking about picking up even before I'd had the drink, knowing that I'd be 4 drinks in needing it. So I was saying to my friend the other day, it was a Friday and we went for a coffee, and I was like, normally at this point at 4 o'clock, I'd be picking up now, even if I was going out at 10 p.m, because then I was prepped to not have to deal with it later.
And we used to call that convenience. We used to say, listen, I've done this like a veteran. I've been doing this for a long time. And honestly, trying to get Coke in Soho on a Friday night is just too hard. Let's get it now.
Yeah, we may as well get an extra one, because they'll do us a deal.
Just in case.
Just in case. We won't touch it. We'll save that for next week.
Yeah.
Did we ever? Did we ever? But it's funny how your brain, your mind has got control of you that much that it's trying to tell you that you're doing a good thing.
Yeah, I
Good
speak
for
a
you
lot.
for being logistics and organized. Like, go and get that Coke now.
Yeah, do it.
Just do it.
Well done.
Yeah, you got your shit together. you know?
You've got your shit together.
But that's what I speak about a lot with cocaine, because I would never say I was addicted, because I might do 2-3 bags a week, which is a lot now, but back then it didn't seem like a lot. But I'd say like I was addicted to the cycle 100%, because I'd wake up on the Friday morning and be like, right, buzzing for tonight, got to pick up at 10 in the morning. So like that is that's addictive pathways building in your brain, because your brain's being like, oh yeah, you really want this, don't you? And I'm like, please, no, not again, sir.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And I think, like, if we were to fast forward, so what came after that was in 2014, there was a real turning point for me where the lights were starting to come on a little bit, which is weird because I was probably like taking drugs, drinking and going from like party to party more than I ever had done. But I think because of those experiences and because of those like dark, dingy kitchens and hotel rooms and stuff like that, the places that I found myself in, I sort of thought, something's not right here. Like, I'm not really being fulfilled by this anymore, but I still did it for another 3 years. Sure. Right. And I can recall dark moments that I think we all sort of remember that point where you can call it rock bottom. I'm not sure if it really was my rock bottom, but I can remember me looking in at myself and seeing myself in certain situations and thinking, fucking hell, I just want to give you a hug.
Yeah.
You know, I don't necessarily want to shake you. I don't want to wake you up or tell you anything, because you've got to figure this out. You're here for a reason at this point in your life, but I need to just hold you and just whatever it is that you're trying to fill yourself up with, like, I just want to give you that love and like give my younger self that appreciation and fulfill that emptiness, I guess, which was why I was having so much sex and taking so much drugs and drinking the way that was, because there was something fucking missing. But in 2016 I had sort of came out of that, shed a few friends, definitely shed a layer of skin, lost people in my family. Those sorts of things definitely woke me up even more. And then I traveled. Right. I decided at the beginning of 2016 that I was going to be a presenter, and that was it. Like, I had so many people saying to me, like, you need to like ditch the performing for now, hang your dancing shoes up and just be a presenter. You are a presenter and you're really fucking good at it. And I was like, I don't know. Dance is all I ever know. Like, performing is what I've always wanted to do. But I made the decision in January 2016, and it was great, because as soon as I had made that decision, it was like, right, okay, so this is my identity, being a gay man, part of the queer community. We always need to have something to hold on to when it comes to our identity, and I guess I found it in a weird sort of a way, and I did that, and the doors all started to open for me, and the presenting work was going really, really well. This was after like 5 years of being a presenter, by the way. It was just that I decided to start calling myself one. That
was like the self-acceptance thing of like, literally, right, this is what I'm...
Right, fuck it, I'll do it. And so that's what I did. And then in 2017 then, I'm now living in like, what I would say like is probably my first stable home since I moved to London in 2009.
Wow.
And it was happy and peaceful. And I was in Clapham. I had good people around me. I was like, okay, something feels different. I don't quite know what it is. I definitely wasn't using drugs the way that I was before. I definitely wasn't going to as many like parties, sex parties and stuff like that. I was just still taking drugs, still drinking, but it didn't feel as chaotic. Yeah. Right. I guess I was growing up a little bit. Went traveling, went to India, taught in schools, was sober for weeks on end, didn't think anything of it. Because you've got to remember, at this stage, I didn't look at my drinking in any other way than it was just drinking. Yeah. Like, it's not that deep.
Yeah.
So that's where I was at. And then when I went traveling and got to see the world and had these experiences, I 100% did not go to find myself, but I had no choice. Right? So
you are going to find yourself.
Come for me.
This is what's happening.
I wasn't like on an Eat, Pray, Love, Julia Roberts sort of thing. I was just going away to teach in schools and work in orphanages and see the world. Amazing. Because I had an opportunity to do that. And it was the best thing I ever did, because I was on beaches in Bali and in Vietnam, wild nights out in Thailand, and I was starting to put myself back together again. But the version of me that I've always been, you know, the person that can just sit on the side of the street and talk to this random man for like 20 minutes. He doesn't need anything from me. I don't need anything from him. We're just sharing this moment. And I haven't had a single drop of alcohol in about 2 weeks. So the seeds that had been planted years in advance were starting to grow. But they were growing, and I also didn't realize that they were growing, because when I was away, I sat on the beach in Bali and I saw this flower going past me. Bali's known for its really beautiful flowers, and it floated past me, and I looked at it and I went, I am that plant, and that plant is me. You can tell I'd been traveling for 4 months by this stage.
Yeah.
I was starting to look at plants.
In the hippie state.
Oh yeah. I was God. But it was beautiful because that's me.
Yeah.
I am connected to the universe. I've always been connected to the universe, and I was starting to have these energy shifts and this vibration that I needed to have. And I would never have had them if I was still living the life that I had been before, because my energy was fucked. I had all these walls up. My energy was all over the place. I didn't know whether I was coming or going. And the universe was like, right, we're going to take him out of London and we're going to plant him in Southeast Asia. He's going to go on all these experiences and let's show this fucker what life is really about.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that you need to go to a beach in Bali and talk to a flower to see that you're
you never know.
connected to the universe. But in that moment, I decided that I was going to go back to the UK and I was going to be a successful TV and radio presenter. That's it.
And
full stop.
Ta-da!
That's what was going to happen. There was no other way.
Yeah.
And I went back to my hostel that I was staying at, and my friend was there, and I said, oh look, I've got these tickets to go and see Steps and I can't bring myself to put them on Facebook and sell them. My friend's also is having an engagement party in East London, not too far from here, the Curtain. And I says, I can't miss these things. And she went, darling, we're in touching distance of Australia. Why the fuck are you going back to the UK? And I went, well, because I've had a really nice time, but I can't sell these Steps tickets. And she went, you can't put... Right, okay. I said, look, it might be their last tour they ever do, and I've bought them for me and my mum before I was decided to go travelling, so I'm going back. And I went, look, if the flights are cheap, I'll go back. They were £150.
What?
Yeah, from Singapore to London, £150.
Well, job done.
Norwegian, they don't exist anymore. I think they probably should have thought about their business model. But I went back to the UK, and the reason why I'm telling you this is because as soon as I got off at Piccadilly station, Piccadilly Circus, I had my backpack on and my beard was out to here, and I still had sand in like my crevices from being direct from Bali. And I came up and I looked around at everybody and I was like, everyone's quite angry, aren't they? Everyone's
London. Yeah.
really angry, really pissed off with life. And I went, I'm not really sure if this is for me anymore. Mum rings me the next day and she was like, well, son, how's your jet lag? I was like, jet lag's fine, but everyone in London's really angry. And she was like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, Mum, I can't live here anymore. And she went, well, where are you going to live? Are you going to come home? And I went, no, I'm not coming home.
Nice try.
Nice try though, Mum. I think I need to move to Manchester or something. And she went, but you don't know anyone in Manchester. I went, I know, but I'll make friends. And she went, okay. She said, and I quote, she said, put it out to the universe. If you're supposed to live in Manchester, you will live in Manchester. So I faffed around for a few weeks in London, went back traveling again because I promised myself I would. And on the beach on Christmas Day of the same year of 2017, I met a guy. Love at first sight, for sure. Well, lust at first sight. And he was from Manchester.
Wow.
Right. You can see where this is going.
Yeah.
So it went there, and I'm in Manchester in 2018. And I had really came to terms with the fact that I was going to go home and smash it. And I'd not taken any drugs since I'd been away, because if you do that in Asia, you will
you're
die.
in trouble.
Yeah,
Which
And
is
they're fucking expensive out there, let me say.
Yeah.
It's not for what of trying.
Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
But it was great because it put me in this position where it wasn't within reaching distance, so I was able to really immerse myself in just the drinking, and the buckets on the beach and the full moon parties. Fine. I moved to Manchester, and that's when the magic really begun. It really begun, because I was in a city that I knew I could conquer.
Yeah.
I'd done London. I was there for 8 years, and it was time for me to put the serious wheels in motion. And I've got a backpack full of experiences that I've just had traveling around Southeast Asia. And I knocked on the door of a radio station, and I asked them to give me a job. In fact, I told them to give me a job, and they did. And I was there for 3.5 years, and I learned everything I needed to learn, the good bits and the bad bits.
Yeah.
And I experienced so much, and it gave me the, I guess, stamp of approval that I could be a full-time presenter, because I wasn't chasing invoices. I wasn't doing this one day. This was my job now. I volunteered for 4 months, but I knew it was going to be worth it.
Yeah.
And I got to meet amazing people, the experiences that I'd had when I was away. I was pulling them into interviews. I was chatting to asylum seekers who told me that they were being thrown out of their country for being gay and stuff. And I was like, okay, I see you.
Yeah.
Because I've just been to places like that. Like there was just this melting pot of stuff that I wanted to share with the world and I wanted to learn more of.
And the universe had served you, right?
1,000,000%. It was like, here you go. And that's when I crafted my skills, I guess, as a broadcaster. And I always knew that I wanted to be at Radio 1.
Yeah.
So I used to listen to Radio 1 all the time whenever I was a kid, like the sort of Chris Moyles era, Colin and Edith era, Fern Cotton, Reggie, that whole golden era of Radio 1. I loved it, but it wasn't for me because it didn't really happen to people like me from Belfast. I wasn't cool enough. I didn't know enough about music, this sort of stuff I'm telling myself. I didn't know enough about music, and how would it happen? Right, it's okay to rock up at a radio station in Manchester and offer them to give you a job, but I think if I did that at the BBC, I'd probably get escorted off the premises. So I was like, that's not going to work.
Excuse me, sir.
Can I have a job? So it was amazing because I did my last year and a half of my presenting at Gaydio during the pandemic.
Right, okay.
And this is where the crescendo of my relationship with alcohol mixed with my burning desire to be a success and happy all came to a head.
So is this your point of sobriety, is pandemic? Let's dive into that.
Every dark experience that I'd had and every turning point that I had had with alcohol prior to the pandemic all raised its head one more time for me.
Right.
So I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but when you've been thinking about being sober or not thinking about being sober, you'll probably be able to recall the same version of events 3 or 4 times before you actually realize that something was trying to speak to you. And I was at a party with a few other guys, and one of the guys had done so much drugs that he went blue, and the police were called, the ambulance was called. I wasn't around to see that. I put my tracksuit on so quickly and run from that flat. And as I'm running away from that flat, I could hear the sirens. And I got back to my flat and I sat in my flat and I went, well, there we go. That's the last ever sex party I will ever go to. Wow. Ever. There needed to be actual police sirens in my brain for me to realize that this was danger and I needed to stop. Yeah. And I've never ever been to one since. And it was brilliant, because I was getting these massive digs in the face in the pandemic, like bottles and bottles of booze just sitting in my fucking kitchen. And I was like, this is not me. 14-year-old me did not want this. 20-year-old me did not want this. So sure as hell, 30-year-old me is not going to be the guy now that has the money and the success and a little brush of fame, if that's what we want to call it, because I'm talking to my ego now, that is going to sit here and just do lines and lines of coke and drink all this booze and have every Tom, Dick and Harry round during a pandemic. Yeah. No, it's not going to happen. And I guess the experiences that I had when I was traveling, the relationships that were falling apart, that I didn't want to fall apart, mixed with the fact that I was getting really close now to becoming happy, successful in the job that I always wanted to have, was the sobering thought. Yeah. You know, I didn't want to sit by myself in the dark doing drugs. I didn't want it anymore. I was done. I didn't hit rock bottom. I didn't. I can safely say now, I didn't hit rock bottom. I was not an addict, but a bit like what you're saying, I had addictive tendencies to the cycle, to the, this is normal. Oh, it's fine. This is normal. Yeah. Everyone does this. It's fine. It's part of my job. It's literally what I get paid to do. Is turn up and be fun. No, like that's not me. And that was September 2020. And I had never said to my friends, I'm doing Stoptember, sober October, dry January. I was not that person. I just woke up on the 1st of September and I said to we'd had a party the night before. Everyone had left. I wasn't even hungover. I wasn't even on a come down. I wasn't full of regret. I just went, I think I'm going to stop drinking for a month. I think I'm done. My friend went, okay, babe. Yeah, that's fun.
Okay.
Are we getting a takeaway then? And I went, yeah. And we ordered all this Lebanese food and it came and I sat. And it wasn't like the first day of the rest of my life, because I just thought it was going to be for a month. Yeah. So I'll just do a month. It's fine. And I guess that was when the universe, everyone that looks out for me, my guardian angels and Jesus, Mary and the wee donkey all breathed a sigh of relief.
They went,
thank fuck.
We've got him.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is not going to drink himself into a ditch like perhaps some of his family members did. This guy isn't going to do loads of drugs and make a cunt out of himself and ruin everything that he's worked so hard for. This guy is not going to burn bridges with his family and people that have stood by him and looked out for him. This is not this guy's story. It's just not. And I saw that for me. Yeah. I was getting up in the morning and doing a breakfast show, having not slept. I was just doing things that at one point we would have saw as rock star, but were like actually just very junky. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not rock star, it's junky. So I was like, and this isn't me. Like, this is not the person I am. So I guess I started this journey, which was genuinely supposed to be for 30 days. And the phone rang and it was Radio 1. I was in, I got a pilot, I did a Christmas show. I was back in the April to cover. I was back in the May to cover. Things were going really well. I just carried on not drinking. I had an amazing management company want to come and represent me. They represent the best broadcasters in the country who believed in me before Radio 1, I guess, had really taken a punt on me. All of these things were lining up for me now, and I was able to see it. I was able to look around and go, yeah, this is cool. I'm not doing this for fame now. I couldn't be arsed with going to an event. Stop sending me free clothes. I'm not fucking interested. I just want to do my thing, which is the radio. And
I guess at that point you find that is that version of self that you were searching for, right?
Yeah. And the clarity you get.
100%, because Radio 1 doesn't know me any other way than just being me. Like, Radio 1's never had to deal with me hungover or Larry at a party or my management ringing and saying, oh, Dean can't come in today. Like, that's not my story, because it was never going to be my story. This was always the way it was meant to be. That's why I had those 3.5 years at Gaydio, making all the mistakes, kicking off, getting into fights with people, letting people down, still shining and succeeding. It was such a juxtaposition. But it all had to happen, you know, and I've still got an amazing relationship with pretty much everyone I've ever worked with in a presenting capacity. And they're so proud of me now, and they say, like, no one deserves this more than you. And I'm like, how can you say that? Because in my head, I was a fucking wreck. You know, in my head, I was a shit show, but they didn't see all the bits that I saw. They didn't see the darkness, you know, they just saw me doing this. But what they don't realize is that I was doing this. Getting lower and lower.
They probably see a version of you that is, because you are a wonderful, kind, caring soul.
Thank you.
So even in like the darkness in your own head, and I always battled with this, because I'd be like, oh, this person hates me, and people are like, no, you're really nice. And I was like, but I think I'm a cunt.
It's so functioning as well, because I can totally relate to that as well, just doing the artist. I mean, I remember doing the Jingle Bell Ball and coming up on the lift on the O2, and there's 16,000 people there. I hadn't slept, and me and Sam were both having like panic attacks underneath the stage at the time.
I've just felt that for you.
Coming up, and I was like, oh fuck. And but then, and everyone, no one else sees it, because like you doing your thing as a professional could probably go in and do your breakfast show on no sleep and no one know any different. And you know, because that's the sort of career drive and the person you are. But you know what? But what an amazing career you're having.
Yeah, let's just quickly touch on some of those things. So talk us through everything you've got going on at the minute, because I swear I can't look on any broadcast or social media without you doing something, which is amazing.
Oh, thank you very much. For me at the minute, it's about enjoying the journey. Like, I could just do Radio 1 for the rest of my life and I would be happy, you know. I really just love being there, and I do feel like I'm at home. I'm not, I guess, like, it's weird. I think I'm excited for the things that me and my team talk about, documentaries, and the things that we've written. And like tonight, I'm getting to go and do Big Brother, and that's really, really exciting.
That's big.
Amazing.
It's so fun. And I love that. And if I just do Big Brother once now, and I've really enjoyed that and met amazing people and had a really great time, I'm happy with that. You know, that's it. I'm not thinking about like, right, okay, so we're doing this because then this has happened. We've done that. I've sat in bars in Soho and looked to go elsewhere, you know. I'm just happy to be in this moment. I've got so many aspirations and things I want to do. Of course, they're in the distance, and how we get there is how we get there. We will get there. 100% we will get there. But I'm just enjoying doing things that I want to do.
Yeah.
And
enjoying the now.
Just enjoying it, and things pull me in those directions.
Because you were saying before, and I very much related to that about next.
Yeah.
I've learned through sobriety that now is so important. And
Yeah.
actually, with the minute you enjoy now, like I do believe in that universe does reward you. Good people will come to you.
Oh, yeah.
Things start happening, and you know why now.
I do know.
Before you know it, you're in a cheese-filled room.
I know.
In East
100%. And I think it's the little things. Like I used to think to myself that when I get this, and this, and this, and this, that will make me happy. But I, within the last 3 years of being sober, have realized that actually the magic happens in between. So I bought my first house in March, and it was hell on earth because I did it all by myself.
Yeah.
No help from anyone. But actually getting the keys to that house and getting into it was really like amazing, obviously, and like going around and like kissing the doorknobs and be like, "You're my knob now."
Yeah.
That was fun.
You're
but
mine.
actually, what I learned during that whole process of buying that house and how fucking unbelievably stressful it was and how lonely that process was for me at times, I have learned so much that I can take into the next part of my life whenever I buy more and more properties, right? And I believe that the universe went, you've got to do this by yourself, fully sober-minded and in clarity. And I can relate that to so many different things, which is why when you ask me like what's ahead and stuff, it's like I have so many things that I would love to be ahead, but actually I'm just really enjoying the journey, like the things that the small things that me and my team are thinking about, and the journey that I want to go on, because I'm not fucking going anywhere. Like I don't care what anyone says. I just, because I love this, that I said to you before, like I love our industry so much, the good parts and the bad parts. So it's like, right, I'm just going to go and enjoy that now. I'm just going to go and just enjoy that. I'm going to do podcasts. I'm going to just do things that I want to do. I'm going to say no to some things. I don't really want to do that. It's just, it's good. We're done, And I do believe that the universe and my relationship with sobriety is the best driving force that I can ever have, because this has been therapy today. Like how, and I hope that whoever is listening to this can feel that, can just feel it. Like it's not easy, and you're probably going to fall off the wagon a million times, and that's also fine. It's not about being sober and staying sober. I promise you, whenever 1 year could just be 10 years to me now, genuinely. It's been 3 years, but it's like it doesn't really matter. In my opinion, every day is a new day. Which is why it's beautiful if you do fall off the wagon that you've got tomorrow. But you've got to make sure you do have tomorrow. Like don't give up.
One day at a time. But no, I mean you're a massive positive ball of energy.
Yes,
you feel
we
it.
love it.
And I guess rolling into our kind of big three. The big three questions.
Not the big three that you thought they were at the beginning. Oh my God. Dean, just for context, everyone, Dean thought we were going to ask him what his 3 drugs of choice were. I was like, oh my God.
But no, we wouldn't be that cruel. So question 1. So I'll take question 1. You're now just over 3 years sober. What is the single best piece of advice you could give to anyone who's thinking about going on a journey of sobriety?
No one gives a shit that you're sober. No one cares. So the voice in your head that tells you that everyone's gonna judge me, everyone's gonna ... everyone ... it doesn't exist. Like period. It doesn't exist. So whether you are 1 year sober and you think everyone cares, you're wrong. That's your ego. All right? And if you are worried about stopping drinking and you think that your whole world's going to fall apart and everyone's going to distance themselves from you, they're not. They really don't care. They'll banter you, they'll take the piss out of you, they'll put bottles of beer and lines of coke under your face to try and tempt you because they think they're bantering you. But really, truly, they don't give a shit on a Tuesday afternoon when they're in work and you're sat in your room rocking backwards and forwards, because everyone is on their own journey. Everyone is self-centered. Everyone cares about what's going on in their lives. So please don't for 1 second think that when you make a decision that the whole world's going to care, because I promise you they won't. And I mean that with complete love.
No, that's a really good piece of advice. Question 2. So again, to reiterate, 3 years sober is incredible. I mean, me and Jamie I'm on 19 months. You're
on 503 days.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
And it's cool to just kind of, those milestones are important, but I think it'd be interesting to share what the single best thing about sobriety is to our listeners?
I guess just being able to be me now, like just being myself, just being me when I'm annoyed, me when I'm happy, me when I like have a cup of tea and it just like does something to the endorphins and the good bugs in my brain. Like that's me. I get to do that now, you know. And the reason I guess why I say that is because even just having 1 or 2 drinks on the weekend can make you feel quite on edge on a Sunday and a bit aggy and a bit angry and a bit depressed and a bit negative. So that's not really you. So at least when I am feeling like that and I am feeling a bit down or a bit aggy or a bit depressed, that's still me.
Yeah.
True
and
feelings.
I'm not going to shy away from that. Every now and again, I get 3 or 4 days where I just feel really low. And I go in and do the radio and it's my medicine, right?
Yeah.
But at least that's me and I get to do that. And there are some times, I guess, like today where I've got like meetings and podcasts and getting to go and do the telly tonight. I get to be excited like last week when I had my mum over and the dog and my boyfriend, the family, like getting to do those things and making me really happy. I get to be really happy. I'm really excited. And that's just me doing that, you know? And being sober allows me to do that because I don't have a shot of tequila with the family to make me happy. It's the family that make me happy, you know?
That's great.
And just the simple things of just like hugging my dog in the morning and like just being happy with that. It's just the small, tiny, minute little things, like just taking a nice deep breath and just letting things out. When you're drunk, high, or on a come down or whatever, you don't really get to appreciate those moments.
Yeah. Perfect. Amazing. I'm going to get that question tattooed on me so I don't forget
You
it.
don't
I do
forget
it
it.
every time.
The big three, the final one.
The final one is the big one, which makes me sound egotistical because I do always forget the first 2, so I have to take it. But we would love you to write a letter to drunk Dean.
Mm-hmm.
So you now sober to your 2013 self. And please start it with Dear Dean and talk to that version of yourself.
Dear Dean, drink the drink, take the line, have the sex, it'll be over soon. Lots of love. Sober Dean.
I love
Okay,
it.
fantastic.
That was so concise. We've had some people that have just gone on these like beautiful like biblical journeys and yours is like fucking go for it.
Fuck that, guys. I've said enough.
Oh, mate, that's amazing. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. It's
My
been
pleasure.
really insightful, and I'm sure it's
Yeah.
going to inspire a lot of people, you know, who might be wanting to follow a similar path. And, you know, so thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it's a pleasure and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.